name is Ida. Welcome to my channel. Finished filming a video talking about my goals and predictions for this year. Figured out maybe I should have a video on my channel talking about who I am as well, so that you actually know who you are watching. There's a tag for this for booktube. What is it called? The booktube newbie tag, I think it is called. There's a list of questions. I thought I was going to answer them, and then you can decide if you want to watch me. The first question is, why did you start this channel? That answer is really very simple. I don't have any friends who likes reading, or at least I don't have any friends who likes reading the same stuff as me, and I don't have anyone to talk about this with, and sometimes I just really want to talk about the books I'm reading. I don't want to annoy my friends too much about this. I mean, I don't annoy them, but it's just not the same talking with someone who aren't interested in the same way as you are. Obviously they're supportive and they like me talking about stuff I like. There's a line there where like talking about it just becomes obsessive, and I do tend to tread that line a lot. So I thought, why not be obsessive on the internet instead? Because surely there's someone here who actually wants to like read the same books as I do. Next question. This is a trickier question. I'm not sure this counts as being fun, but the thing is, I don't read that many books. I read like 15 to 20 books a year, which, I mean, it is a lot for some people, and then it's not a lot for a lot of the booktubers on this platform. I'm hoping I can bring like maybe a bit more chill vibe. I'm hoping that when I watch those videos with the booktubers I like, who are like, oh, I read like 100 books a year, I get a bit overwhelmed. I guess I can say overwhelmed and a bit like disappointed in myself because I'm not able to read that much, which is like totally out of my control. It's not, I should be proud of the books I can read and the fact that I read at all, but that's just not how I feel all the times. And so I found it really nice watching booktubers who don't read as much, and I'm hoping I can be that too, that I can bring a bit more chill vibe maybe. And obviously I do have opinions on books, and they're bound to be different from other people. That's just the way opinion works, and I hope I can bring that too. What are you most excited about for this channel? Well, obviously there's the filming it. I'm very excited about reading books and then talking about it. I think that's very fun. And that's the whole reason why I'm starting this channel to begin with. I am also, maybe this is a bit nerdy of me, I'm very excited about the editing videos part. Now, I hate watching myself and I hate hearing myself, so that's obviously a hurdle I just have to get over. But when I get over that, I'm very excited about making videos. It's a creative outlet that I have not yet like explored properly, and yeah, I'm very excited. I also took a course in uni about video making, so I'm very excited about this, like getting to use those skills as well. Why do you love reading? I mean, why does anyone love reading? Okay, so the thing about reading is it feels like a bit more active activity than, for example, watching TV shows or movies. In the sense that I can't just zone out and then continue on, and then I have to be in focus and I have to like actually absorb the things I'm reading and consuming to get anything out of it, which makes it perfect for me because I have a tendency to get distracted. So watching movies is very difficult for me. Watching TV shows is also a bit difficult because I can get through an episode, but I can't get through a season. And I do have a history about quitting seasons before they're finished and just like leaving the last like 2 episodes because I stopped focusing. I wasn't able to continue, and very often that is because I keep zoning out and then I'm not able to follow the plot, which is impossible when you're reading, at least when you're like reading with your eyes when you're listening, it's a bit different, and that is also why I don't listen to as many audiobooks. I also do love reading for the escapism of it all. It is very nice. So I love reading for the escapism of it all. Just like when your life feels terrible and you're just racked with anxiety, and yeah, you just can't find any bright spots in your day, it is very nice to just open a book and then focus on someone else's problems for like an hour or two. That's very nice. It is something you need. And obviously that can come in many different forms. For me, I mainly achieve that through reading books. So that's why I love reading. What book or series got you into reading? Which is a bit more of a difficult question, because I'm not sure really that there were any books or specific books or series that got me into reading. Basically, oh, you're going down. Basically, I was obsessed with reading before I could read. I'm not sure what it was. I was just like, I was looking at all these letters that were so integral to your life, knowing how to read them. And I was just really anxious to get to learn to read and to know like what everything around me was saying. So I was already obsessed with it before I started reading. And then obviously I learned how to read, and so I just wanted to keep doing it. Little childhood story. There's this book that we have in Norway, at least, maybe in the rest of Scandinavia too, maybe it's in the rest of the world too, I'm not sure. Excuse my doggos in the background who are playing. There's a book called Carius and Bactus. It's about I'm not sure how to even describe it. It's basically about these little trolls who live inside your mouth, and it's a book that's supposed to like encourage toddlers and small children to brush their teeth. I was obsessed with that book when I was little. I wasn't able to read yet because I was like 3 years old, but I had my dad reading it every night, and I knew it like by heart. So he got kind of tired of reading that same book every night for like a year. So he started trying to skip parts, and I knew that so well that I knew when he was skipping and I had him go back. And yeah, that was my first book obsession, really. And then I learned how to read myself, so I started reading children's books. And then maybe in second grade, I think, my parents were like, okay, she's read through all the picture books. Like, they're not doing it for her anymore, because I was requiring more challenging stuff. So they got me the first Harry Potter book, and I read that, and I was obsessed, so I read it again, and again, and again. Like, I think 11 times in a row, 12 times in a row, and I read it more than that. But then I read like the second and the third book, and I was obsessed. So I guess you could say that Harry Potter was the first, like, the series that got me into reading, because that was the first, like, proper novel that I read. But yeah, always been obsessed with it, really. What would you ask your favorite booktubers? I would ask them a lot of like tips and tricks for how to film videos and editing, and also how did they get over the fear of being like classmates and stuff seeing them, because that's definitely what I'm the most afraid of. Keep imagining that no one will see me, but then like someone I know will see it, and that will be the only audience I have. I mean, I'm fine with having no audience at all. I just don't want my audience to be someone I know. And I would ask how they did that. Also a bit like, how did they find their aesthetic? Just a lot of just asking how they do it, basically. Also, how do they read so much? That's just a genuine question for everyone who's able to read like more than 20 books a year. How the do you do that? What challenges do you think you might face? Well, I mean, obviously there's the whole filming stuff and talking in front of camera and having time to do it all, and then having time to read because I need to read to have this channel up, or like having videos for this channel. I think those are the like biggest challenges. Those have been the challenges in the past. If you didn't know, I have filmed this like booktube newbie tag so many times over the last years. I've just never gotten to the part where I'm editing it because I hate editing and like watching myself and hearing myself. So every time I'm like, this is it. This is the video I'm actually going to get up, and then it's never the video I'm going to get up. Or perhaps this video is it. I am also very anxious about what people will say to me. There's a lot of anxiety happening here, so I think that just in general would be my biggest challenge. Bit easier question now. Where do you read? Question answer anywhere really. Like mainly it's in my bed because I read before I'm going to bed, and I like to be relaxed and comfortable when I'm reading. On and off I listen to audiobooks, and that is when every time I'm walking or I'm driving somewhere, and sometimes I read like when I have a break at work. Mainly in bed, mainly in this chair, but sometimes other places too. What type of books do you like to read? I brought all of my favorite books down here, and then I realized there's quite a lot of books that are my favorite books. So I think we'll just get started with the like book series that's the most important to me. Percy Jackson. Okay, so Percy Jackson is kind of like hot on the internet right now because of the new book series. This is my book series. This is my main book series. This is the book series that I would not trade for anything. Ever since I read it, I think I was 12 because I think I was the age of Percy in the first book when I read the first book. Percy Jackson is my favorite book series. It is well loved. I have read it multiple times. I'm not really sure what I can say. I'm not sure I would like it as well if I read it today, but because I read it when I was like the intended audience or like the intended age group, it was just a smash hit for me, and I am not able to stop thinking about it, and I am very excited about the new TV show, and I'm probably going to talk about it at some point. If there was like one book series that would define me and what I like, it would be Percy Jackson. Yeah. Anyways, I like fantasy a lot. I don't like the like really, what's it called, hard fantasy? Full fantasy. I like fantasy when it's like not tied, for example, Game of Thrones, because I feel like that's very difficult to get into. Some examples of fantasy books I like, obviously, is Percy Jackson. I recently read Lockwood & Co. Really like that. I'm on the second book. I've been on the second book since July. Not because I'm not liking it. I just don't have any self-discipline. I read This Vicious Grace. That's by Emily Thied. I actually haven't seen many people talk about this book, but I really enjoyed it. Whereas Lockwood & Co., obviously that's a fantasy world kind of, but it's like in our world just adding fantasy elements. This is like a completely different world, and I can do this, but it needs to be like engaging, and I don't like really dark stuff. I think that's the problem. I don't really like really dark fantasies, and I don't like a lot of death. I say after having said that Percy Jackson is my favorite book series. Yeah. that makes sense. I really like This Vicious Grace, and also Once Upon a Broken Heart. I really liked it, but I gave it, I think I was like 3.5 or 4 stars. It was really difficult to follow like the fantasy world. It wasn't like fleshed out very well. And then when I was finished with this book, I realized this is set in the same world as Caraval, and so I guess that's why I didn't like it as well, or I didn't feel like it was fleshed out as well, because you're supposed to have read Caraval before you read this. So yeah, I definitely have to get on that at some point. Another favorite series of mine, the Cruel Prince series. I am a sucker for enemies to lovers. This is also a book with a lot of that. The thing is that a lot of the characters in this series, they're just not very likable, so you're like, oh, okay, it's okay if they die. I'm not sure why I like it so much. That's the consensus with all of these books. I'm not sure why I like them. Yes, I think I like them mostly because, I mean, I'm able to like really get sucked into into the world. If I'm not able to do that, then I'm not going to like it. And I also like interesting characters. I'm not sure how to define interesting characters. I do like when they're like not like perfectly perfect, and when they do have kind of like dark sides. Obviously, this is a really good example of that. Would also say that Percy Jackson is a good example of that. If you have a world and writing that is able to suck me into it, and you have interesting characters that like I just want to get to know better, then I guess that's the recipe to getting me interested. I also should mention, I just reread The Hunger Games. I read it when I was like 13 and I didn't enjoy it that much. It was like okay for me, but I reread it now because of the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes like hype, and it was so good. It's a new favorite series for me. I understand why I didn't like it when I was 13, because there was like a lot of the nuances that just flew way over my head, but I really like it now. I don't think there's much to say about this. I think the Hunger Games series, like nothing new like commentary wise that I can come with. I really liked it. Interesting characters, easy to get sucked into, means I like. There is something that I also have to admit that I really like. I am a sucker for romances, but not like pure romances. I like cheesy romances. I like when there's like something interesting to them. So for example, The Cruel Prince, the whole like they hate each other, enemies to lovers thing, trope. I love that. I also really like the Selection series, which really doesn't say much about my taste. But again, I wouldn't say the characters are very, very interesting, but the world is really easy to get sucked into. And it's also like the whole thing that it's very nice to read about like stupid, superficial problems, which a lot of this is. I think also I read this during the pandemic. I was desperate, okay? Let's not talk more about the Selection. When we're in that place, I really like romances. I have found that I like Ellie Hazelwood a lot. So I've read these two books, and then I'm currently listening to Love Theoretically, which I only have like an hour and a half left of. They have my humor, so I'm constantly just giggling throughout this. And then there's some parts that I don't like, but because they're kind of funny, I'm able to just look past that. So I really like these books. They're like a fun 24 to 48 hours of me just getting sucked into something else. Contemporary romances, yeah, they're good. Another contemporary romance like book series I really like, To All the Boys I Loved Before. I'm not sure why, I'm kind of obsessed with like high school love stories. There's not much for me to say. They were like a fun couple of months. It took a while because this was also during the pandemic, which meant I wasn't like walking a lot of places and I had no reason to listen to audiobooks a lot. But they were really nice. The last section of books that I want to like touch on, thrillers, would they be called crime? I'm actually not sure what they are classified as. I read Stephen King's The Institute. I really like this, and it doesn't really make sense because it's kind of heavy. It's not like typical the books I tend to gravitate towards, but it kind of had this like, I don't know, it kind of felt like Stranger Things in a way, and I was just curious as to what was going to happen next when I read it. Yeah, I think I just really liked and was very curious about the whole concept, because it's basically about the government kidnapping children with like these abilities, and I was really curious as to what was going to happen to these kids, because obviously what was happening to them wasn't good, and how they got those powers and what they were doing with those powers, and I was just curious throughout this whole thing, which is why I read it. And then I have read a couple more, but these are the ones that I have liked the most. So this is The Ivies. This is a book by author-tuber slash booktuber here on YouTube. Her name is Alexa Dunn. Maybe you've heard about her, maybe you've seen her, I'm not sure. And this is like set in a prep school, which is mostly why I was interested in it. And then I found out that I do actually really like mysteries. Obviously, that is why I liked this as well. That led me to reading The June Boys. I tried like one time to read it, and then I wasn't able to, and then I tried again like a year later, and I loved it. That was my video. Thank you for watching. Bye!